Okay, let's unpack this. You've given us a stack of sources all about designing outdoor spaces, specifically patios, and our mission today is to really dive deep into those.
Right.
We're going to try and pull out the absolute best insights, maybe some surprising facts, and give you that shortcut to understanding what makes a truly exceptional patio.
Hmm.
One that goes way beyond just some chairs outside. We're talking about a space that feels like a real extension of your home, a genuine sanctuary.
Yeah, and what the sources make clear, like right from the start, is that the core vision here is absolutely key. It's not just about adding a patio onto your house.
Right.
It's about designing it as an extension of your living space, thinking of it as this threshold where architecture and nature just seamlessly meet.
Okay.
The insight really is that by framing it as a sanctuary, you automatically start thinking differently about tranquility, harmony, balancing the built stuff with the organic world.
That's what grabbed me, actually, this feeling they describe. Stepping through those big floor-to-ceiling doors.
Yeah.
And feeling like you're entering a space that's just bathed in this soft, natural light, where there's an immediate sense of calm and elegance, too.
Exactly. It's not just functional. The sources really emphasize that it needs to feel, almost poetic, like you said.
Poetic, yeah.
And that poetic feeling, it's grounded in the physical building blocks. The sources detail these strong architectural foundations like robust concrete walls. They give it character, permanence.
Okay, permanence.
But the crucial design move, the sources say, is how they are immediately softened, contrasted by the warmth of natural wood.
Ah, the contrast.
Yeah, and then you might have sleek steel detailing that kind of acts as framing,
It creates this visual rhythm, doesn't it? Like those floor-to-ceiling wooden doors opening onto a wooden deck. It feels less like just opening a door to the outside,
Right.
and more like an invitation to connect with that space beyond.
Exactly, an invitation. And speaking of connecting, the sources spend a significant amount of time on integrating the green living elements. The garden isn't just a backdrop here. The insight is that it's a vital, living part of the design itself. It's in the patio space.
They listed specific plants that really jumped out. I remember seeing tropical trees for shade and shadow, vibrant palms.
Yeah, banana leaves, monstera, philodendrons.
Oh, and those sculptural rubber plants, often tucked into nice ceramic pots. It sounds very deliberate, like a real curation of life.
It is, very curated. And the idea of vertical gardens actually climbing the walls, that's where they really push the blurring of lines,
Blurring the structure in nature.
Exactly. The structure itself becomes part of the living landscape. And the sources were quite firm on this point. You need to avoid sterile surfaces.
No dead zones.
Right. Every available inch, whether it's a wall, a corner, a surface, it's adorned with greenery or carefully selected details like stone sculptures, terracotta vessels, matte ceramic vases. It adds layers, stops it feeling empty.
That thoughtful approach, it seems like it carries right over into the furniture and decor, too. The sources describe it as more than just outdoor furniture.
Definitely more. It's a reflection of modern luxury, but also conscious choice. Think low-slung sectionals, often with rounded forms.
Cozy.
Yeah, upholstered at soft, textured neutrals, ivory, sand, charcoal. It sounds incredibly comfortable, designed to feel like your indoor living room just flowed outside.
Okay.
And the coffee tables reinforce this, using materials like poured concrete, maybe reclaimed timber or steel. That provides that material contrast again, keeps it interesting. What's fascinating here, though, is the level of detail they go into about surface styling. It's described as layered.
Layered, how so?
Like a tray with some artisanal candles, maybe a stone bowl with moss or shells, a stack of design books. The insight is that it's styled to look lived in and characterful.
Not like a sterile showroom.
Exactly. Not staged. It has personality.
This makes me wonder how they handle light, because light changes everything, doesn't it? The sources must emphasize its power.
Oh, absolutely. The insight is that light is a transformative element, both natural and artificial. Daylight isn't just about brightness.
Right.
It filters through things like trellises or slatted structures, casting these dynamic, shifting patterns that change throughout the day. It makes the space feel alive, responsive.
And then at night, I imagine it completely shifts the mood.
Totally. Soft, warm glows, maybe from minimalist wall sconces or subtle hidden strip lighting behind planters' contemporary lanterns. It makes the space really inviting and usable after sunset. Adds intimacy, charm.
Okay, and the walls. You mentioned walls earlier. The sources had a strong take on how they function.
They did. They aren't just boundaries. The insight is that every wall should tell a story or contribute texture. Think raw concrete, maybe with its untouched texture,
Interesting.
or natural lime plaster with that sort of rippling surface, or even open wooden shelving integrated into a wall.
And then how those walls and shelves are activated, you mentioned that.
Yeah, activated, so maybe oversized contemporary art, or climbing greenery snaking up, ceramic jars, antique bowls, planters with herbs or vines. It's like every vertical surface has a purpose.
Ensuring no corner feels forgotten or underutilized.
Exactly. Nothing wasted.
So the layout and flow are also clearly paramount. Described not as rigid, but fluid.
Very fluid. Seating areas are arranged deliberately, maybe for conversation or for quiet contemplation. The sources give examples, like modern chairs facing out towards the greenery,
Nice.
or maybe a corner bench built right into the deck, softened with pillows. Even a simple stone pedestal can act as a visual anchor, maybe for a sculpture. The furniture choices actively contribute to the energy and movement.
That's interesting. If it's an open space, though, how do they actually define different zones or areas within the patio without just putting up walls?
Good question. The sources suggest doing it subtly. The insight is to use elements like, say, a low-textured rug under a seating area,
Yeah.
or maybe a cluster of ceramic stools to hint at a casual retreat. It's about creating defined feelings or uses within the space, but without rigid barriers.
So visual cues rather than physical ones.
Exactly. Even small nooks become opportunities for sanctuary. It's less about physical division, more about visual and energetic cues guiding you.
And that leads seamlessly, I guess, into the connection with the garden beyond. The sources are clear the patio shouldn't just stop abruptly.
Right, no hard edges. The design intent is for the patio to kind of dissolve into the garden. Maybe via soft transitions like paving stones set in grass, or winding paths, or wooden walkways. You might encounter features like raised garden beds or shaded spots under mature trees just beyond the main patio area. The overall impression is one of seamlessness. The home and garden are designed to really collaborate.
What about the feeling of the space? The sources really emphasize the richness of the tactile experience, didn't they?
Yes, touch is highlighted as absolutely essential. The insight is that the material qualities deeply impact the sense of warmth and harmony. Think about the knotted texture of a rug underfoot,
Yeah.
the smooth coolness of polished stone, the soft grain of sanded wood, or maybe the rugged handmade feel of clay pots. These tactile elements provide that sensory depth that complements the visual design. It's not just about how it looks.
And they are the canvas, I suppose, for those pops of personality through color. You mentioned colorful pillows, maybe a deep blue vessel, gold lantern.
Exactly. It's about engaging multiple senses, layering those experiences.
Right.
And something the sources reinforce again and again is that nothing is purely decorative or purely practical.
Function and form together.
Always. The insight is that functionality and ornament go hand in hand. A vertical garden isn't just beautiful, it also softens acoustics, improves air quality.
Okay.
A built-in bench is seating, yes, but it also helps define a zone. Pots are for plants, obviously, but their form and placement make them sculptural elements too.
They even mentioned integrated functionality, didn't they? Like hidden storage and benches or shelving designed to hold both decor and garden tools.
Yes, it's all about that deep intentionality. Everything has a purpose, often multiple purposes.
Which naturally brings us to the beauty the sources find in material patina and natural aging.
Yes, this was a lovely point. The insight is that materials aren't static. They evolve gracefully over time. Timber softens and silvers. Concrete develops subtle tonal shifts. Ceramic and terracotta gain texture. This isn't seen as wear and tear, but as the material gaining character, depth, through its interaction with the elements.
It's evolution, not decay.
Precisely. Evolution.
And color, it sounds like, is treated with a similar kind of subtlety, not loud.
Yeah, the sources emphasize color as a whisper, not a shout. Neutrals provide that elegant anchor, that calm base.
Right.
But carefully selected vibrant colors add personality and mood without overwhelming the tranquility. Think deep green pots, maybe a single mustard cushion, sapphire blue vases, rust tones and throws. It's strategic use to enhance, not dominate.
Something the sources really honed in on, it felt like, was the idea of dynamic immersion in nature. These aren't spaces you just look at nature from.
No, absolutely not.
Those are spaces you are in nature.
Yeah, that's a core insight, really. It's about the multisensory experience. Hearing the rustling leaves, seeing light reflect off water or foliage, feeling the different textures underfoot, or, reaching out and touching a plant.
Yeah.
This closeness isn't just aesthetic. The sources suggest it's fundamental to the feeling of the space. It actively helps slow us down, helps us be present.
And how does the space transform after dark? You touched on the lighting.
Yeah, the sources describe a pretty significant shift. After sunset, the space becomes softer, definitely more intimate. Those thoughtfully placed lights create ambiance and depth. Shadows play, inviting you to linger longer, experience the patio in a completely different mood. It's really designed for both day and night living.
And the decorative elements were described as the final layer, right? The personal signature.
Exactly that, the personal signature. Sculptural objects, maybe carved bowls, hand-thrown plates. These are the pieces that hold stories, that infuse the space with the personality of the home and the people living there.
The finishing touches that make it uniquely yours. And the space isn't static either. The sources mention seasonality and evolution.
Yes, the insight here is that these patios are designed to change with time and the seasons. This allows for growth, literally, in the plants, but also metaphorically for the people who use the space. The design accommodates this natural evolution, rather than trying to fight against it or keep it frozen.
Thinking about the structure and flow again, the sources talked about proportion, balance, and this idea of a journey.
They did. Proportion and balance are crucial, especially in how they affect the perceived size and, importantly, the comfort of the space.
Okay.
And the insight about the journey is really powerful, how your eye and your body are guided. From inside the home, smoothly onto the patio, and then seamlessly into the garden beyond.
So the design actively guides this progression.
Yes, making the movement through the space a thoughtful, curated experience, not just accidental.
That makes me wonder, did the sources talk much about sound? It's an often forgotten sensory layer in design.
They did touch on it, yeah. Perhaps less extensively than, say, materials or light. But the insight is there. Sound is a subtle but important element.
Like what?
Well, the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Maybe the gentle chime of a well-placed wind chime, not too much. Or just the acoustic softness provided by having lots of lush planting around. It all contributes to that feeling of tranquility and immersion.
And flooring variety. Different materials underfoot must create sensory contrast, too.
Exactly. The sources mentioned using different flooring materials, warm wood, cool stone, perhaps polished concrete. The point is that each material has a distinct sensory impact. And using them thoughtfully helps define zones or just adds texture and interest to the experience of moving through the patio.
One thing that might concern listeners is if they don't have a huge outdoor space. Did the sources address that limitation?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a really reassuring insight, I think. The sources make it very clear that size isn't the ultimate limitation. Intention is.
Intention over size.
Exactly. You don't need a vast area to create this feeling. By focusing on the core principles, the intentionality, the detail, the texture, that connection to nature, you can transform even a small corner into a genuine sanctuary, a retreat that supports your life and rituals.
So the secret, according to these sources, isn't necessarily size or even budget, but wholeness. Is that the right word?
If that's the word they use, wholeness. The insight is that every single part of the space is considered. There's no chaos, no forgotten voids or awkward corners.
Okay.
Because every element, from the big architectural features down to the smallest decorative object, is chosen with intention and designed to work together. The space feels like it grew organically with the home, not like an afterthought. It feels like it truly belongs.
And wrapping all of this together, what was the most powerful piece of guidance, maybe, that the sources offered, the core message?
For me, it came down to designing from feeling. The strongest insight, I think, was to ask yourself, how do you want to feel in this space? Do you want to feel rested, energized, connected, inspired? Start with that feeling and design outward from there. It's about listening to the space itself, the land it sits on, your own rhythms, and letting that guide your choices.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sources are suggesting this whole approach isn't just about luxury or keeping up with trends. It sounds more like a philosophy.
It truly is. That's a great way to put it. It's a philosophy that values restraint, material honesty, seamless integration, deep comfort, peace, presence, and that profound connection to nature. It's about creating spaces where design and nature don't just coexist, they actively, hold hands. Where architecture meets landscape, where comfort meets style, and where every moment feels just a little more meaningful because the space itself is designed to support it.
Wow. This deep dive into your sources has really revealed how intentional design, focusing on all those layers, detail, texture, light, seamless integration with nature, can absolutely transform a patio from just a functional area into a vital, really soul-filled living space. It's clearly not just about adding square footage. It's about creating a space to truly live and connect.
And that leads to an important question for you, the listener. How can you start listening to your own outdoor space, whatever its size and design, not just for how it looks, but for how you truly want to feel there? What small step could you maybe take this week to make it a place that genuinely supports your life, your daily rituals?
That's the power of digging into the source material like this, isn't it? It doesn't just give you vague ideas, it gives you a blueprint, specific details, and even, as you said, a philosophy to help you create something truly extraordinary right outside your own door. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
If you found this video helpful or inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Interior Blockchain Studio for more expert design ideas, trends, and creative inspiration. Your support helps us bring you even more amazing content, so make sure to turn on notifications and stay updated with our latest uploads. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.